Thank you for staying with us on TMI here on ITV. Quickly, I would love you to meet my guest from my immediate left, Dr. Patrick Awosaige Esquire. He's a public affairs commentator. Next to him is Professor Adios Arab, immediate past chairman, academic staff, Union of Universities, Unibank chapter, and a senior lecturer at the University of Benin. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
It's a pleasure.
We want to quickly start this conversation, but first of all, let's introduce a historical perspective, gentlemen. This won't be the first time that somebody who has lost with regards to presidential election would go to court to challenge the declaration by INEC of a certain candidate as the winner of that election. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar will not be the first to do that, at least since 1999. But some persons are pointing to certain elements that are different about this particular one. I mean, the whole process of litigation and the final outcome as we saw yesterday. I want to begin with you, Professor Adios Arab. What have been your thoughts the whole time this case dragged on and all of the news stories are broke regarding the proceedings?
What is wrong with the proceedings? Once you feel oppressed, once somehow it appears that justice is arrested, you have right to protest.
Okay.
So what is wrong with what Atiku has done? If you feel you are not well treated during the electionary process and all that, the only route you of course to express your disagreement is to go to court, and that is what legitimately that's what Atiku has done.
Right.
And of course, who will not in the kind of a process that we are operating in Nigeria, the electionary process, right from the beginning, it was clear that it was wrong. When the president or president refused to accede to Electoral Act, it was clear that something wrong was going to happen. And then we saw in the elections, we see the number of persons who were killed. We heard that so many places voting didn't take place. We heard of ballot snatching and all that, even where military men were involved and all. So why won't any person who had lost during that process not go to court? Of course, I don't see anything wrong with what...
I'm going to point out two more things, but let me take it one at a time.
Yes.
You just alluded to the amendments that were made to the Electoral Act,
yes,
to which the executive did not assent at the time.
Yes.
So are you saying the reasons advanced by the executive or by the president at that time for not assenting to those amendments were not far-reaching or convincing enough?
How can it be convincing? What was wrong with signing a good idea? Of course, what they say...
But they say good is relative.
Yes, I know. But of course, you and I, for people who brought that out, discovered that at least would have given some kind of good health to our electionary process. We saw it now. It came out very clearly during the idea of sending results from, from the different wards or the states to INEC office. We saw issue about server. It was one of the major issues of contention. Of course, and this was what those bookmakers have said they should assent to. And it became a point of turbulence. You know, a point of adjudication during the case in court and all that. So I don't see... it was not far-reaching at all.
So by way of following up now, yes, you will realize that immediately after President Muhammadu Buhari was declared as the winner of the February 23 election, presidential election,
yes,
that is, some persons came out quickly to say there shouldn't be any need for former Vice President Atiku to go to court. Of course, you already made a point that he has the right, or at least he had the right to go to court if he felt shortchanged by the system or by whatever reason. But then again, for voices like respected lawyers, Olisa Bakoba and Co., to even suggest, of course, there is no way they could have forced him not to go to court if he was bent on going to court. But they suggested that he should have allowed the whole thing slide and then allow the new government to run smoothly. Was that supposed to be a distraction for former Vice President Atiku?
Of course, I'm sure those people were arguing from a point of superiority, in terms of idea of what they know. But it's unfortunate that anybody who is involved in the judiciary should suggest that. Because as a lawyer, Agbakoba, for instance, as a lawyer, should be one of the persons that will ask, okay, the next route would be to go to court. But as it were, what it means is that he has lost hope in the system that he represents. That is what what has played out. I'm sure that Agbako has seen that nothing eventually is going to happen. That is unlikely that through the judicial system he was going to get justice. I'm sure that is just all. Otherwise, there's no reason why a lawyer will not suggest that you shouldn't go to court to at least render your case as it were.
Or seek redress.
Seek redress. Do you understand? So what else for a lawyer to do that? What is like, from his point of view, he knows it's like walking from answer to question, which is what.
Incidentally, we are hoping to be joined this morning on the program in a few minutes by the state youth leader of the People's Democratic Party. But then again, we're blessed with a lawyer on the program this morning. Please help us make sense of how that we continue to grapple with constitutional issues regarding the electoral process. For example, Prof here just made clear allusion to the amendments to the Electoral Act that were not assented to by the president just before the election. I keep wondering, could assenting to those amendments have done the magic in courts to our electoral process?
Thank you, Uyi. You know, I believe we know what we are doing. You know, the words of, I will always remember those words of Fidel Castro when he said, to be moral in an immoral society is immoral. You know, Buhari is a man that has been regarded that is above board and all of that, a general who is incorruptible, as it has been said, you know, but we are looking at it from not just the Buhari's perspective. Now, you're talking about an electoral act that was brought before him to assent to. Why will he assent to it? That's the first question. Oh, in the best interest of our people. Now, the people bringing that up, Saraki and others, they enjoyed the privilege of being governor at the time, and they have seen all the loopholes that have favored them. Now, because things were not going their way, they now believed, oh, look, we need to buckle up here. If we are making laws, not because of us, we should do it in the best interest of everyone. I think that is it. And look at the time it was coming. Buhari, ordinarily, I knew he was not going to assent to it. Because if he had done that...
Because of the proximity to elections?
Obviously, not just that alone. That's one, but that's not it. Because it's going to affect him. Look, it's a sit-tight principle that we operate here. You know, the system we are on is more or less like, it's my family affair. I remember one executive governor, I think the wife complained that, you are wasting my husband's money. She's talking of state funds. She called it her husband's money. So that's basically what it is. So when we look at, we're looking at maybe, why did he not assent? We have a very funny system. It's not about Buhari. Buhari is an individual. You have party, you have all the folks around him, you have to consult them. You know, you need to make consultation. They tell you, look, this thing you are going to do is going to hurt you, and it's going to scuttle our plans, and it's not going to work. Now again, before we blame Buhari, who amended the Electoral Act 2014? Was it Buhari? Then I said, okay, so, you know, all electoral matters should end in 180 days. That in itself was the major, you know, straw that broke the camel's back. You know, before now, we had Peter Obi had gone to court and reclaimed his mandate after 3.5 years.
Right.
You know, we had Adams Ali Oshomole, who had fought Professor Serimo Osumbo, and he reclaimed it, you know, about almost 2 years or thereabout. Now, when we now bring it to 180 days, and I liken to what Olisa Agbakoba said. In the wisdom of Olisa Agbakoba it wasn't giving up in the legal system, as it were. What he was trying to advise Atiku, look, there is no, law is about principle. Law is about law. There is a law that will fight you. You're going to meet a mental cast somewhere, which has been created by law. Okay, how will you feed your witnesses? how long do you have? How much time do you have?
If we were to put that differently,
Yes.
It will sound like you're saying that it was already a dead end from that point from the
That is exactly what, that is exactly what it is.
But then again, it raises the question of why the PDP and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar didn't sit or just won't say.
You see, like I said before in this, I've said it before, we shouldn't be talking about, let's leave the judges out of it. Leave lawyers out of this. This is our problem. We have a 40 Electoral Act. My Electoral Act is 40. I have said it here. There is nobody, let Professor B, let him be the one that win today. I cannot contest him. I can't manage it. The way it is now. The time is too short.
So we need to make fundamental changes.
We need to make a whole lot of change. Nigerians should come out and protest against it.
It will appear the former vice president will share your sentiments when you say it's not a problem with the judiciary, because he says that the judiciary has been hijacked by a dictatorial cabal. Those were his exact
when
words.
He was vice president to Olusegun Obasanjo,
yes,
and I know Buhari had fought them, they didn't make such comments. He didn't make such comment. They were running their election. That's why I said when it favors me, I said it's all well and good. Look at the APC folks now everywhere. Oh, praising, well, it has been laid to rest. We thank God. Victory at last. But on the other hand, the man is complaining that the judiciary, I know Buhari himself. He said Supreme Court was blind to their own application. He made such statements. He said Nigeria will be ungovernable. Those were statements from President Muhammadu Buhari. In his anger, in the heat of his passion, he was not happy.
With the system.
With the system. And that is what he faced because he was not in. But today, he's showering encomium on the judiciary because he's there. Now, it's not a judiciary problem. I must tell you.
Is it a people problem then?
It's the law problem. And we don't make the law. We only interpret the law.
I'm going to come back to you on some certain controversy. Some certain controversy that's welling up right now, because a lot of lawyers you talk to about legal issues, they will tell you there's absolutely nothing wrong with our laws, that the problem is implementation. We're going to talk about implementation and the will to implement these laws in a bit. Let me come back to Prof again. You know, right from the word go, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar was hammering on the issue of server. There was a serious, long, drawn-out back and forth over that issue. On the one hand, the former vice president has said there was a server. INEC has deployed and used a server. On the contrary, INEC would say they never had a server. There was never a server. So there was this controversy that was a very strong strand in the legal tussle that saw some closure yesterday. How much of responsibility does that put on the table of INEC as the umpire?
Of course, a very weighty one. When they were making budgets for the election, they budgeted for server. So will they come out now to tell Nigerians what they did with that money if they didn't procure server? Is to ask INEC whether they didn't employ people to handle that aspect of our electoral process. Then how come that now, immediately after the election, you are now saying that what was the responsibility of card readers and all that? After reading your card, for those who went to the wards and all that to conduct the elections, where did they send their information to and all that? So how come later you are now saying that server was not used?
Prof, permit me to allow you hold your thoughts for a minute. I'm going to allow you continue on that trajectory in a bit. We're taking a quick break now. The idea is to continue to stretch this conversation for you on the program. Stay with us.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Appreciate you staying with us on the program. I've just been joined by a third guest on TMI to help us deepen the conversation we're having about these two topical issues this morning. Architect Adios Arab, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm going to come to you shortly, but I want Prof to establish the point he was making just a while ago. You were talking about the server issue, which was a strong bone of contention between the ruling party and the opposition. Then in the middle of it was INEC itself. So you want to push that thought?
Yeah, I said that. I like working from first principle. That's why you notice this was the first issue that I hammered on is the Electoral Act. Of course, so from what it is, the Electoral Act is blind, you know, to any issue about the server. Right. But that all of us know that those who went to the various places to conduct the election abused electronic items and all that. I talked about the immediate one, the card reader and all that. Those who conducted the election are aware that they sent information, you know, through to a receiver computer and all of that, which is the server. But of course, there's nothing you can do in court because it is not recognized. The Constitution is blind to it.
Absolutely.
So that is just it. That is why I started talking about the Electoral Act. That is where we have lost whatever it is to get justice.
There were already mixed feelings. I mean, remember I talked about the fact that we needed to introduce a historical perspective to this discussion we're having.
Yeah.
Right from before the election, at least a week before the election, Nigerians already started having mixed feelings. For some, it was not just mixed feelings, it was some certain level of misgiving, because INEC had to, at the very last minute, push the election by 1 week, even though the umpire had assured Nigerians 24 hours before that elections were going to hold.
Yeah.
Some of the things we see today, some people have argued, are only a pointer to the issues we've always had as a country.
Yeah.
We are running circles about these issues, aren't we?
Well, yes, that is circle. Like he mentioned, the barrister here mentioned earlier, it's selfishness on the part of many of our politicians, Nigerians, because when it concerns you, you know, of course, you think all is well, but if it's not you, you cry wolf. That is what we are seeing here. But the truth about it is that why won't Nigerians consider the larger bill of health of the nation? Why won't we not think about what is best for this country instead of becoming selfish at any opportunity to do so? So what we have seen here is that do what I say, not or the way they put it is that do what I say and not what I do.
Okay, so that's already that already is an insinuation of absence of exemplary leadership, which really is a challenge for this country. Let me come to you now, Adios. It's no longer news that the Court of Appeal the Supreme Court had brought closure to the case between the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and President Muhammadu Buhari, which of course by extension rubs off on the ruling party, the APC, and the opposition, the PDP. What's your take on all of the issues that led us to where we are now? Because we are not going to the judgment. The judgment has been served, obviously. But we can't take our eyes away from the issues that have led us to where we are now. And of course, going forward, they need to ensure those issues are addressed in order to avert future troubles.
Yeah, I quite understand what you're saying. But at the same time, we can't turn our eyes away from the issue that just happened yesterday. Because a lot was done, a lot of money was expended, a lot of time, a lot of effort for someone to just sit down and dish out judgment like that.
By money, you mean taxpayers' money?
Campaign money on both sides. A lot of money was expended, so we would have expected more. This country is actually on a reverse jar. We can't see things and wave it off. I won't talk here as a PDP person, but as a Nigerian. People are relocating out of this country. In our very own eye, we saw rice move from 12,000 naira to 30,000 naira. For you to feed is a problem now. So you don't see them. See, for a country to move forward, we say we are practicing democracy. We must look at the judiciary, strong judiciary. Then you look at the electoral empire. With all due respect, they both failed us. That is the truth. The same panel that gave judgment in Oshu, they were the same people. In Supreme Court, there are precedents. It should be on seniority. You don't handpick people. The day we lost this judgment was the day Onogan was removed. See, we must look at this country that judiciary should be an independent body, legislative one should be independent, and the executive is no higher than the judiciary, nor are they higher than the legislative. But today you see that once a ruling party is in power, they model up everything. They ensure they put their people there. That is not democracy anymore. We must be very careful because the country is at the verge of breaking. So we must look at things not just because of selfish interests, but for the interest of Nigerians in general.
I feel a nudge. I feel a nudge to mention something about the removal of Justice Sonoge that you talked about a while ago.
That was
recall that the removal came on the strength of legal decisions. I don't want us to
what I'm saying, it happened at the eve of the election when things have been planned out. when they've discussed with INEC, when everything had been laid in the table, they now say, okay, where would probably become the loophole? Okay, let's look at this. Let's extrait this. I'm not saying he was right not to declare asset or whether, but at the time it was done, was wrong. How many, was it when he just emerged that you investigated him? Why was it at the eve of the election?
Let me provide.
So that sort of coincidence is something you are not comfortable with.
Yes, of course.
Prof wants to add his voice to what you're saying.
I want to provide that. Justice Okoro, that was in that manner yesterday, was one of those people that had been arrested earlier for taking bribe and all that. So when you now talk about that, the removal of an organ was an issue for legal or whatever. You know, I'm not a lawyer. It's a house.
You're suggesting double standards.
Obviously.
But in any case, we also know on good authority that some of those judges who were arrested then on suspicion of being in possession of monies they could not account for. Yes, some of those judges had been vindicated.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So if that was the case, then
they were vindicated later.
Well,
you cannot try
the timeline will be a secondary issue. Bottom line is they were vindicated. But I think the point that Thaddeus is making is that we need to take a second and closer look at the system. Because if you are making a point and you're saying that, it's always a case of the ruling party, those in the ruling party are the ones who always wield the more enormous influence.
Yeah, because
but how do we fix that?
Look at the legislative arm. In the 8th Assembly, you saw an independent legislative arm of government. And Nigeria, at least, there was resistance to some things. But this one, I'm sorry to say, is just a party affair. Look at the day President Buhari was presenting budget. You could see President of Senate and Rep clapping. Instead of you to look at it critically, the budget you are presenting, you are talking about VAT and tax that you will be generating money from that you've not gotten, that even the opposition party are even in court for. But you are using it to plan. Why do you want to plan from the beginning? You've already planned to fail.
But let's face it, Thaddeus. When you do budget presentation and people clap, remember that there's also an element of ceremony when you do presentation like that. So they may not be clapping because they were necessarily impressed with the budgetary elements, because as you rightly observed, that was something they ought to take a very critical look at later.
We must be serious as a nation.
But are you also aware that many of the ministers are having a tough time now defending their budget proposals? Because the Senate is telling them, I mean the committee is in charge of the budget issue, it's telling them that the budgets you're bringing, they are not feasible. Some of them cannot even defend the budgets now, which means that we're already having issues along that line. So whether you clapped for them yesterday or not is not counting now.
Let me tell you, those issues will be resolved. They are the same party people. It's party affair. But that is not how to move a nation forward. As we speak right now, our president has traveled again. He's never in the country to even look at the issues. I was coming from Abuja. I spent over 8 hours on the road. You see tankers. Those people have been there for a week. There is no road. There is no FEMA anymore. Nothing is happening, and our president is jetting out every opportunity. How many times have you seen Donald Trump traveling out of America for vacation? Until you enjoy the work that you are doing, there's no business going there. Your job should also be your recreation and your vacation. We have serious problem in this nation.
I want to ask you just
we
one
need
question.
Somebody like a Rwanda president. It's somebody that is focused, that knows where he's moving the nation to be our president.
I'm going to ask you one question before I let you off on this matter. Obviously, you are a member of the People's Democratic Party.
Yes, of course.
And you are a vibrant, young, energetic youth leader at the state level.
Yes.
Would you say your party is effective at opposition? Because there have been conversations about opposition, brilliant, forward-looking, result-oriented, goal-focused, laser-focused opposition. Is your party doing exactly that? Because these countries you have mentioned, the US, for example, I mean, I'm not sure you have not been following the tussle between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in the US. That's a big conversation, right? And then you come to the Rwanda you're talking about. Rwanda has a history that we cannot blind our eyes to. I mean, you know of the Rwanda genocide and so on and so forth, where over 1 million people were killed. They are coming from that background. But then you come to Nigeria, we have our peculiarities here. Is your party, because whether you like it or not, we may have 1 million parties, but the PDP is the spearhead of the opposition in Nigeria. Is your party effective at opposition?
I would love to visit that Rwanda's genocide. Do you know how many lives we lose every day? The beauty of this, that this insecurity, this poverty doesn't wear green, white, red, the symbol of PDP, nor blue, white, red, the symbol of APC.
Right.
It affects all Nigerians, both the poor, both the rich. The appeal judge was kidnapped yesterday in Edo State. He's not a poor person. He has security personnel. That is the beauty of it, that it affects everybody. So we must look at things holistically, not along party lines. Away from party line, because we are all suffering the same thing. If I get to the market, they won't tell me, are you a PDP member? If you are a PDP member, a bag of rice is 30,000. If you are APC, it's 20. No, we go to the same market, we purchase the same thing at the same price. So that's why we must look at how do we reverse this. A lot of people, a lot of my friends, people that are well to do, the bourgeois, they are all migrating out of this country because of this same thing. And if you don't live on time, it's just 4 years into this administration, we are seeing what is happening, the price of everything. In another 4 years, this next level, do you know where we are going? And
the issue of opposition.
Do you know where? Let me tell you, as opposition, the PDP have done their best. They have done their best in the face of tyranny, where the media are even be guided. That anything you say, where is this that he held it today? Our member in Kaduna, the young guy that was very, very, has been picked up, has not been taken to court. Nothing has been done. This is full-blown tyranny. This is no longer the democracy that we used to know, where somebody will come on there, insult Jonathan, and nothing will happen. We are on the reverse there. And that is why everything is happening this way.
Okay, I'm going to come
to
you.
The PDP is doing their best, even in the face of intimidation, in the face of harassment.
Well, again, there's the principle of relativity when it comes to best. But
do you know?
Yes.
Even the AIT was shut down because of this, because they bring almost a contrary news to the facts and the sugar-coated news. Because of that, to shut down. Okay,
I'm not going to drag you into regulatory issues now, because that would be too demanding for us to brainstorm on this program. But you need to understand that regulatory issues are serious. And in broadcast journalism, or in journalism generally, there's something called sensationalism. It's a serious matter. But I want to come to this lawyer now here to help us resolve some of these issues. Up until now, for example, you still find cases in courts that drag on longer than expected. At a point, that weakens people's confidence in the judiciary. You cannot wake up and say, okay, this judgment that was delivered today in favor of Thaddeus, even though I lost to him, I believe it was the best that could have ever been achieved, because I believe in the system. Lawyers are quick to jump to the defense of the judiciary, and I'm not sure you're an exception. But then again, you are asking, can we have a vibrant, robust system, as Thaddeus here and Prof obviously are clamoring for, if the judiciary is not sound, robust, fair, and balanced enough?
Thank you. Yeah, I take a strong exception to all of that, the judiciary is not sound and maybe lopsided, tying a pro string of the executive. That's not true. That's not true. You see, what we see, I have said earlier on, you see, if we want a well-meaningful system, it's an issue of everybody. The judges are, like you mentioned, the appeal court justice have been kidnapped. It's a Nigerian. It's a human being. And we must understand that you are a judge does not, you are limited by what is before you. My opinion is okay. My opinion don't count when it borders on what is before you, or before me as it stands. So we cannot do anything outside what is before us. The Electoral Act is 40.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Of course, by all means, we must continue to have these conversations about our country, our beloved country. Two issues we have talked about today we can't forget in a rush is the fact that we must continue to rejig and continue to jig our electoral process in such a way that certain things could be avoided. The second is to also take a very close look, maybe a much closer look than we have ever done, at the insecurity challenge that we're dealing with as a country. And then governments would have to be more sincere regarding the purpose behind the initiatives introduced to help deal with the problems that confront us in this country. And then Nigerians are also required to be more patriotic, to continue to love the country and do their bits on a daily basis. Obviously, it's a collective responsibility, isn't it? Remember, the views of our guests on the program are all their opinions. I'm Uyag Mofwegwe. That's TMI for this Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your day.